Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating piece of source text titled The Luxury of Less, Reclaiming the Modern Floor Plan. And honestly, this analysis is going to fundamentally challenge literally everything you and I naturally assume about our modern living spaces. I mean, we live in an era where the size of our homes has practically become a proxy for our personal achievements, right? But the research and concepts we're about to explore argue that our spatial priorities are just completely backward. We're going to look really closely at this concept of square footage inflation and uncover why shedding our excess space might actually be the ultimate key to a much better life.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to start by asking yourself one simple question. How much of your home do you actually use? Seriously, think about your daily routine for a second. Think about where you sit, where you eat, where you sleep, and where you work. If you were to track your footsteps over the course of an entire week, how many corners of your home would remain completely untouched? It creates a bit of instant cognitive dissonance, doesn't it? Because we work so incredibly hard to acquire these living spaces, yet we inhabit such a surprisingly small fraction of them on a regular basis.
And here is the shocking baseline metric derived directly from our source material. 50%. Yep, half. This single number represents the core thesis we're going to be unpacking today. According to the text, we actually need 50% less space than what modern floor plans typically provide. Half of our space. It's an absolutely staggering figure when you really stop to consider it. It literally means that half of what we heat, half of what we cool, and half of what we spend our weekends aggressively vacuuming is fundamentally unnecessary for our daily existence. Crazy, right?
Section 1. The Square Footage Obsession. The myth of bigger is better.
So it all really stems from this deeply ingrained cultural myth, the idea that success equals massive square footage. Our source material points to this assumption as the absolute root problem driving modern housing trends. Basically, we've been conditioned to view our floor plan like a scoreboard. Think about it. A promotion at work, a growing family, a milestone anniversary. These life events are traditionally celebrated by upgrading to a larger conceptual footprint. But what the text reveals is that this relentless pursuit of space inevitably leads to massive areas of wasted space and a really heavy burden of maintenance fatigue. We're essentially buying space to house our success, but we end up serving the space instead of the space serving us.
Section 2. Decades of floor plan inflation, tracking the bloat.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how we got here. If we walk chronologically through the eras of floor plan growth, we see a very distinct evolution. In past decades, say the 1950s, homes were strictly needs-based. They were scaled to the human body and basic human functions, like sleeping, eating, and taking shelter. Then, in recent decades, we shifted to comfort-driven designs, adding guest rooms, secondary living rooms, and specialized hobby areas. But as the source points out, we've now arrived at present day, which is basically an era of peak inflation. Our expectations for space have inflated completely out of control, ballooning far, far beyond both our needs and our comfort.
Just look at the sheer scale of this. Notice the dramatic leap from the past scale on the left to the present inflated scale on the right. Now, the physical size of a human being hasn't changed. Our fundamental daily needs haven't changed. Yet the conceptual footprint of what we consider a normal home has absolutely skyrocketed. The source material emphasizes this blow to ensure we really feel the weight of the excess space we've accumulated. It's an architectural inflation that has just far outpaced our actual human reality.
Section 3. The 50% Rule. The reality of our space.
Now, look at that massive 50% slice representing wasted space. The text's startling claim is visualized perfectly right here. On one side, you've got the 50% of space you actually use, your bedroom, the kitchen counter, maybe your favorite chair in the living room. But on the other side, taking up an equal amount of real estate is the 50% of unused, inflated space sitting completely empty in modern floor plans. It's that formal dining room you use maybe twice a year, the cavernous entryway, or that guest room that essentially serves as an incredibly expensive storage unit for a treadmill. This completely proves that the inflation we saw earlier isn't giving us more life, it's literally just giving us more empty volume.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound truth hidden in the specific phrasing of this quote, why we actually need 50% less space. Notice the word need. The text doesn't say why we can survive with less space or why we should settle for less space. No, it argues that we actively need less space. Because the reality is excess space is not a neutral asset. It's a demanding liability.
By reducing our space by half, we remove a tremendous psychological and financial burden from our daily lives.
Section 4. The luxury of less. Changing the paradigm.
The source text defines the luxury of less pretty simply. It's about experiencing a higher quality of life and reclaiming your space by eliminating 50% of unnecessary square footage. And this is an absolutely vital philosophical pivot. Shedding space does not mean sacrificing comfort. Actually, scratch that. It means enhancing it. True luxury isn't having massive rooms just to hear your footsteps echo. True luxury is having a home that's perfectly calibrated to your actual life, totally free from the drag of maintaining dead zones.
To really break through this old mental paradigm, we have to look at the direct contrast. The old mindset dictates that success means having more room for stuff. It's a mindset completely rooted in accumulation. But the new mindset, derived directly from the source's teachings, argues for more time for living. When you cut that 50% of inflated square footage, you're simultaneously cutting the time spent cleaning it, the money spent furnishing it, and the mental energy spent managing the whole shebang. You aren't losing space at all. You are buying back your time.
Let's move to Section 5, Reclaiming Your Floor Plan, and see how this builds into putting the theory into practice.
The text lays out a really clear, step-by-step approach to fundamentally rethink your own living layout. Step 1. Recognize the square footage inflation. You've got to first acknowledge the cultural bloat and start seeing your home through the lens of human utility, not architectural ego. Step 2. Apply the 50% reality check. Go ahead and audit your own home. Where are your dead zones? And finally, Step 3. Reclaim your modern floor plan. This means actively shedding the excess. Now, whether that means downsizing your home entirely or just aggressively repurposing that wasted space to better serve your actual daily reality rather than just storing your clutter, that is totally up to you.
So the crucial point is this: we have to unlearn decades of conditioning. We must identify our own square footage obsession and realize how floor plan inflation has secretly dictated our lives. Once we recognize that reality, we can internalize these core concepts, finally let go of the burden of the bloat, and fully embrace the true luxury of less.
I want to leave you with this really provocative thought from our exploration today. Look around the room you're sitting in right now. Seriously, look at the corners, the empty chairs, the space you simply walk through and never use. If you magically cut your total living space in half tomorrow, stripping away all that inflated, unused square footage and all the stressful maintenance that comes with it, what would you finally have room for in your life? Think about the time, the peace of mind, and the absolute freedom you would reclaim. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep questioning the space around you.